Admiral Cawthon expected fire. He expected chaos, screams, a desperate flurry of resistance. What he did not expect was the message. It appeared without fanfare across every Dominion channel, each word shaped in perfect Vorth script. The bridge fell into an unnatural hush as officers read it, and even the engines seemed to dim beneath its weight. "You've made a mistake. Stop now, or we stop pretending to be civilized." No voice. No demand for negotiations. Just cold text written with absolute precision, like the judgment of some ancient machine. Cawthon stared at it, and for the first time in years, he felt the faintest prickle across his armored spine. He had crushed rebellions spanning 3 sectors. He had erased civilizations from memory. He knew the voices of the defeated, their panic, their pleas, their bargaining tones. This was none of those. This was a promise. "Decoded?" he asked finally. Vath's claws flexed against the console. "Yes, Admiral. Origin Earth. Unaltered. Direct." Cawthon leaned back in his command chair, his expression carved from stone. "They think themselves clever." A younger officer swallowed visibly. "It doesn't read like a bluff, sir." Cawthon's gaze snapped to him, cold and sharp. "It reads like desperation wearing armor. Humans paint threats on walls when they lack real weapons. Prepare the assault. Their courage will burn with their cities." But as commands rippled outward, no one moved with the usual confidence. The words on the screen lingered like smoke after a distant fire. Across the fleet, something changed. Ships began vanishing. At first, reports trickled in like static. A Dominion destroyer gone dark near Mars' orbit. Then 2 cruisers near Jupiter's shadow. No explosions, no distress calls. One moment they were on scanners, the next they weren't. Whole squadrons disappeared as if the void itself had swallowed them. Cawthon demanded answers. His officers scrambled through data streams, combed sensor logs, replayed tactical feeds frame by frame. Nothing. Just black gaps where ships should be. Vath's voice cracked the silence. "Admiral, we're detecting spatial ruptures. Brief openings. Too fast to trace. Wormholes." "Yes." "Artificial. Controlled." Cawthon felt his chest tighten. He had studied humanity's meager technology before this campaign. Clumsy fusion drives, primitive railguns, a handful of lunar outposts. Wormholes had been centuries beyond them. Or so he thought. The younger officer spoke again, hesitant. "Sir, it's as if they knew exactly where we'd position our fleets. Like they were waiting." Cawthon turned slowly toward Earth's dark curve. A planet of oceans and forests, cities buried in shadow. Utterly still. Waiting. "Show me their history," he ordered. The bridge lights dimmed as screens filled with human wars across centuries. Grainy footage of firebombed cities. Black and white soldiers crawling through trenches. Nuclear detonations blooming like artificial suns. Carrier strikes, orbital weapons tests, autonomous drones sweeping battlefields long before the Vorth learned artificial intelligence tactics. Cawthon watched in silence. Humanity had not merely fought wars, it had refined them into art. Every era worse than the last. The footage climbed through decades: Vietnam, World War II, ancient Mongol conquests, cyber wars, urban sieges, ending with quiet test ranges where weapons struck with clinical perfection. One recording showed a mushroom cloud devouring a city in silence. Cawthon exhaled slowly, the sound dry and low. "They kill like they breathe." The younger officer's voice was tight. "Sir, these conflicts were on their own world, against themselves." Vath stared at the screens, his ridged brow furrowing. "Who wages wars like this on themselves?" Cawthon had no answer. He kept watching as if the images might change meaning under enough scrutiny. But they didn't. Humans fought extinction every century as if it were a ritual. The comms officer broke the silence. "More Dominion fleets destroyed, Admiral. Sectors 12 through 15. 0 survivors." Cawthon rose slowly from his chair. His armor caught the cold light, casting jagged shadows across the deck. "Show me the attacks." The footage came in fragments, Dominion ships cruising in perfect formation before something tore through them with surgical speed. Not chaos, precision. Engines dead in a heartbeat. Weapons disabled before power cores ruptured. No wasted motion. No grand explosions unless necessary. And always the silence. No taunts. No declarations. Humanity struck like mathematics erasing numbers from a page. Vaith turned toward his admiral. We should regroup. Assess this new technology before. Before what? Cawthon snapped. Before we admit fear of primitives hiding behind one blue world. Vaith hesitated. Around them, officers pretended to study screens but stole glances toward the exchange. Doubt was spreading like rot beneath steel plating. Cawthon felt it too, crawling cold through his gut. But pride was armor, and he wore it well. Contact the Dominion Senate, he ordered. They'll want justification before I glass this planet. Vaith tilted his head. And if they refuse escalation? Cawthon's gaze never left Earth. Then they can watch what happens when hesitation meets extinction. Yet deep inside, beneath rage and authority, Cawthon felt the first seed of something unfamiliar blooming quietly. It was not respect. Not yet. It was the weight of realizing the prey might have been studying the hunters all along. As the bridge buzzed with distant voices from the Dominion Senate demanding explanations, Cawthon stood alone before the holoscreens, watching Earth turn slowly in its shroud of oceans and clouds. He remembered the message. Stop now, or we stop pretending to be civilized. It no longer felt like theater. And for the first time in his long career of conquest, Admiral Cawthon wondered if perhaps the Dominion had finally stepped into a war it could not win. The message hung across every Dominion screen like a blade caught in midair, each character cut into flawless Vorth script. You've made a mistake. Stop now, or we stop pretending to be civilized. It was unsigned, without sound or ceremony, just words pulsing faintly against the dark. On the flagship's bridge, no one spoke for several seconds. Admiral Cawthon's gaze lingered on the message, unreadable but sharp, as though measuring its weight. He had conquered 15 species across 3 sectors, burned worlds until their oceans boiled away, and crushed rebellions before they became rumors. He knew what surrender looked like. This wasn't surrender. Vaith finally broke the silence. Admiral, they speak as though they hold the blade, not the neck beneath it. Cawthon's voice was low, controlled. And yet they send words, not weapons. Fear often wears borrowed courage. But even as he said it, the Admiral felt something under his armor, an unfamiliar ripple of uncertainty. The humans had been erratic but predictable until now, throwing obsolete fleets at Dominion cruisers, fighting with the desperation of cornered prey. Suddenly, they'd gone quiet, organized, deliberate. Reports began streaming in, voices tight with confusion. A Dominion destroyer vanished near Jupiter's orbit. Then a carrier group beyond Mars. No distress calls, no explosions, just gone, as if plucked from space by invisible hands. Cawthon ordered tactical feeds. The images came in broken fragments, a cruiser coasting along a dark trajectory, then a flash of distortion, a brief fold of space and nothing. Black screens where fleets had been. Wormholes. Vaith muttered, scanning data. Artificial. Controlled. Cawthon turned sharply. Dominion science had clawed toward wormhole travel for centuries, always at the edge of catastrophe. Yet here was a species barely climbing out of its own gravity well, wielding them like scalpels. How? Someone whispered. No one answered. Cawthon requested Earth's historical archives, what fragments Dominion intelligence had dismissed as irrelevant cultural debris. The holoscreen shifted, casting harsh light across the bridge as centuries of human violence unspooled before alien eyes. Trench lines drowning in mud. Cities erased by firebombing. Nuclear suns rising over deserts. Fleets burning in orbital silence. Soldiers advancing through streets reduced to bone and dust. Every era worse than the one before, as though conflict were the only constant in their history. Vaith watched a mushroom cloud climb skyward in perfect, soundless bloom. All this against themselves? Cawthon didn't answer. He was watching human faces in the footage, grim, unflinching, carrying on through horrors that should have ended them. Victors and victims both with the same eyes, the same resolve. The comms officer interrupted softly, as though afraid of breaking something fragile. Another fleet gone, Admiral. Sectors 12 through 15. No survivors. No transmissions. On screen, Dominion cruisers drifted for seconds before their engines died in unison, power cores collapsing inward without fire or fury. One moment warships filled the void, the next, cold silence claimed them. They're disabling, not destroying, Vaith said slowly. Precise. Surgical. Cawthon felt the bridge crew's unease thickening like fog. Dominion war was conquest by avalanche, overwhelm, consume, advance. Humanity was erasing fleets with mathematic restraint, no wasted motion, no broadcasts of triumph. It felt less like war and more like judgment. He straightened slowly. Contact the Dominion Senate. Inform them resistance is stiffer than projected. Murmurs swept the bridge. Protocol demanded victory reports, not requests for oversight. Cawthon ignored them. His gaze stayed fixed on Earth's shadowed curve below, the planet rotating in unsettling stillness. The Senate link crackled alive, dozens of Dominion counselors appearing in fractured holograms. Their voices overlapped in demands and accusations. Explain these losses, Admiral. Primitive worlds should not bleed our fleets. Do you require reinforcements or new leadership? Cawthon listened without expression. Politicians smelled weakness the way scavengers smelled blood. He chose his words carefully. Humanity possesses technology unaccounted for in prior assessments, he said evenly. Wormhole precision, energy manipulation, fleet coordination beyond Dominion projections. An elder counselor hissed through static. You suggest parity with the Dominion? I suggest, Cawthon said, letting the pause sharpen, that we may be underestimating a species that has never known peace and survived it. The chamber erupted in denial. Some demanded immediate escalation, others a full retreat until intelligence caught up. Typical. Dominion politics would debate while fleets vanished one by one. Through it all, Cawthon stood silent, watching Earth turn slowly on the view screens. He thought of the message. Stop now, or we stop pretending to be civilized. Not once in his campaigns had prey warned the hunter. The council was still shouting when another officer's voice cracked across the bridge. Admiral, new contact. Multiple wormhole signatures surrounding us. The words cut the Senate feed into silence. Cawthon's eyes lifted toward the tactical display blooming red with fresh anomalies. The Dominion fleet floated in perfect formation, unaware predators drifting in the dark. Around them, space itself rippled like disturbed water. One by one, human ships slid out of the ruptures, sleek, angular shapes bristling with weapons whose signatures Dominion sensors couldn't name. No transmissions. No demands. Just the quiet arrival of something that had been waiting for them. Cawthon felt the bridge crew watching him, waiting for orders he didn't yet have. The silence deepened until it felt like pressure against the skull. For the first time since the campaign began, Admiral Cawthon wondered, not if they could win, but if they had already lost and simply hadn't understood it yet. The human fleet didn't fire. Not yet. That somehow felt worse. The first shot came without sound. A pulse of light tore across the black between fleets, and a Dominion cruiser ceased to exist. No fire, no debris, just absence, as though the ship had been erased from reality. Before Cawthon could issue a command, another vanished, then a third, each death arriving with the precision of a surgeon's blade rather than the chaos of battle. Human ships moved like nothing he had ever seen. No formation, no broadcast orders, no visible coordination, yet every strike landed perfectly, as if each vessel shared a single mind. Wormholes bloomed and collapsed in silent ripples, disgorging ships that attacked and vanished again before Dominion weapons could lock. Cawthon barked for counterfire. Beams and missiles flooded the void, a storm of Dominion fury that should have shredded anything within reach. But human ships were no longer there. Their movements defied prediction, skipping through space in impossible arcs, striking engines, weapons arrays, command bridges, never wasting fire on hull or armor, only cutting away what made the Dominion dangerous. Where are their transmissions? Vaith demanded over the chaos, claws digging into the railing. No orders, no chatter, nothing. Cawthon didn't answer. He was watching the enemy fleet dismantle his armada, like a man watching his own hands come apart finger by finger. The Dominion Senate screamed through the still-active hololink, demanding explanations, reinforcements, retaliation. Cawthon ignored them. What could he tell them? That they weren't fighting soldiers but ghosts, an enemy who struck without sound or haste, like war itself had taken sides. "Admiral," a censor officer cried. "They're leaving Dominion ships intact after disabling them. Crews alive. Systems offline." It made no sense. Conquerors killed. Rebels destroyed. But these humans killed only what resisted, and only as much as needed. Even in defeat, Dominion ships floated like drifting corpses, lights dark but hulls untouched, as though humanity wanted them to witness survival itself as humiliation. Cawthon felt the weight of every officer's eyes. Dominion pride was cracking. Fear leaked in like cold through broken walls. "Regroup what remains," he ordered. "Hold the line around the flagship." But there was no line anymore. Human ships slid between Dominion formations like water through fingers, carving away command vessels and supply carriers with surgical malice. Each disappearance of another Dominion ship was a blade across Cawthon's authority. He remembered the message. Stop now, or we stop pretending to be civilized. Pretending, as though what he saw now was restraint, not rage. "Admiral," Vaith said quietly, "we should withdraw. Warn the Senate this war has changed shape." Cawthon almost agreed, but the words died before leaving his mouth. Withdrawal meant admitting fear, and fear was death in Dominion politics. Pride warred with reason across his thoughts as another cruiser winked out under human fire. "Open a channel to their fleet," he said instead. Static answered. No voice, no text, no acknowledgement that the Dominion even spoke. Humanity gave only silence and precision, every unanswered hail another reminder that they controlled not just the battle but the conversation itself. Then the human fleet halted. Cawthon stared at the sudden stillness. Engines cold, weapons idle, ships hanging like predatory shapes in the dark, surrounding what remained of the Dominion armada. He waited for demands, for surrender terms, for something he could fight with words if not weapons. Instead, wormholes bloomed across the battlescape, and humanity left. Just like that. Gone. Cawthon's fleet floated broken and blind, survivors silent on dead channels, systems crippled beyond repair. Yet humanity had not destroyed them. They had shown power, then departed, leaving only the question of why unanswered. Senate voices erupted again through the bridge link, a storm of panic and anger now stripped of arrogance. Some demanded retreat behind Dominion borders. Others shrieked for full mobilization, the annihilation of Earth before this enemy grew stronger. Cawthon said nothing. He was watching the empty void where the human fleet had been, feeling the shape of their message more clearly than words could have carried it. This was not victory for humanity. It was warning. His officers waited for orders he didn't give. Vaith studied him with quiet intensity, reading the thoughts Cawthon didn't speak aloud, that the Dominion had awakened something old and cold in humanity, something forged across centuries of killing each other until no enemy in the stars could frighten them. When Cawthon finally spoke, his voice carried none of its usual iron. "Send word to every Dominion sector," he said. "Pull fleets back to core worlds. Defenses on maximum alert. And prepare contingencies." "Retreat?" Vaith asked softly. Cawthon met his second's gaze. "Survival." The bridge fell silent again, save for the broken voices of the Senate still demanding answers from a war already lost in spirit, if not yet in territory. Cawthon ignored them. His eyes stayed on the void where humanity had vanished, certain now that they hadn't retreated at all. They were repositioning, and when they returned, the Dominion would not survive it. The Dominion Senate convened in emergency session, its chamber lit by the cold glare of holographic flames. They argued like scavengers over a carcass, voices colliding in panic. Retreat, escalation, peace, annihilation, each word an echo of a power they no longer possessed. The warlords who once spoke of dominance now sounded like frightened bureaucrats awaiting a verdict they couldn't predict. Admiral Cawthon stood alone at the center, shoulders rigid, eyes fixed on nothing. He had returned from the wreckage of his fleet without the swagger that once marked him. Survival tasted like ash. Every counselor demanded an explanation for how primitives from a single blue world had dismantled Dominion fleets as though peeling fruit. None paused to consider the silence humanity left behind. Attack now, one counselor roared. Burn their world before they build 1,000 fleets. With what? Another spat. Our outer sectors are gone. Our shipyards empty. You want to hand them our core worlds too. Fear has poisoned you, the first snarled. Cawthon's voice cut through the chamber like a blade drawn slowly from its sheath. Fear is wisdom finally waking. The room fell silent. His gaze swept the counselors, each one suddenly smaller beneath it. You have not seen them up close. You did not watch them dismantle us without a word, as though war were beneath conversation. We thought ourselves conquerors until we met a species that has practiced killing since it learned to walk upright. Murmurs rippled, anger mixing with unease. Cawthon let them fade before speaking again. Withdraw. Fortify. If they want peace, give them no reason to deny it. If they want war, he left the rest unsaid. But the choice was never theirs to make. The first human fleet returned 3 days later. No fanfare, no declaration, just silent emergence across Dominion space, wormholes blossoming above core worlds, capital stations, military hubs. Thousands of ships moving in unison, like a single living organism. They didn't fire. Not yet. Cawthon stood aboard the Dominion's last intact command station, watching them appear one after another, a tide of metal and intent blotting out stars. His officers braced for demands, ultimatums, some voice to explain what terms humanity required. Instead, every Dominion defense grid went dark. Power systems failed without damage, weapons frozen, engines dead, entire fleets rendered blind and helpless by forces Dominion science couldn't name. Humanity hadn't come to negotiate. They had come to end choice itself. Cawthon waited for annihilation. He expected the cold efficiency of before, ships gutted, stations left adrift, fleets erased without passion or pause. Instead, a single transmission cut through the silence. One voice. Human. Calm. Precise. Surrender now, it said in flawless Dominion tongue. Live. Resist, and there will be nothing left. No rage, no cruelty, no triumph. Just simple fact, delivered with the weight of inevitability. Cawthon stared at the screen, at the endless fleet surrounding everything he had ever sworn to protect, and understood that Dominion history ended here, if he chose wrongly. Pride whispered to fight. Instinct screamed to kneel. For the first time in his life, he listened to instinct. I will speak for the Dominion, he said. And just like that, 10,000 guns stayed silent. The surrender was total. Systems, fleets, colonies, all bent beneath humanity's shadow without another shot fired. Cawthon expected death, exile, erasure. Humanity offered none. Instead, they named him governor under their oversight, a role forged not from mercy, but necessity. Someone had to hold the Dominion together beneath this new order, and humanity seemed disinterested in thrones. As terms rippled across the galaxy, Cawthon watched human fleets spread outward like veins of iron across blackness. No parades, no monuments, no speeches. They rebuilt where they destroyed, restored what they disabled, always moving with that same measured silence. Conquerors usually celebrated. Humanity simply worked. Vaith found him alone one evening overlooking the scorched lights of the capital below. I thought they would kill us all, the second admitted. Cawthon's jaw tightened. So did I. Then why spare us? He had no answer. Perhaps humanity didn't hate them. Perhaps this was never about revenge. Maybe it was something colder, that Dominion fleets were broken tools, not enemies, and tools could be repurposed. Weeks passed before Cawthon understood. Humanity hadn't won a war. They had revealed one truth, that the Dominion, for all its centuries of conquest, had only ever played at war. Humanity lived it, wore it like bone and blood, carried it into the stars not as ambition but as instinct. One night, aboard the orbital station above the Dominion capital, Cawthon watched Earth rise on the main view screen. Its oceans glimmered beneath a net of orbital platforms now bristling with fleets. Rebuilt cities burned with light instead of fire. Humanity had not celebrated victory because to them this wasn't victory at all. It was preparation. Vaith approached quietly. "Do you think they'll stop here?" Cawthon shook his head slowly. He remembered the first message, the one that began all of this. "Stop now, or we stop pretending to be civilized." They had stopped pretending, and the galaxy would never sleep easily again.